The summer party was in full swing when Mark and I arrived at Rebecca's house. The familiar warmth of her hospitality enveloped us as we stepped into the backyard, filled with laughter, music, and the delicious scent of barbecue. Lanterns hummed from the trees, casting a soft glow over the gathering crowd, and the hum of conversation blended seamlessly with the distant notes of a jazz band playing softly in the background. As Mark wandered off to talk shop with some colleagues, I scanned the crowd, searching for Rebecca. I found her amidst a group of friends, her infectious and joyous laughter ringing out like a bell. She spotted me, her face lighting up even more. "Sophia," she exclaimed, breaking away from the group to hug me tightly. "I'm so glad you made it. You have to meet Ethan. He's back from college and all grown up." She pulled me through the crowd, and my heart raced with anticipation and curiosity. The last time I saw Ethan, he was just a teenager, awkward and gangly. As we approached, I caught sight of him and stopped short. Standing before me was not the boy I remembered, but a young man with a confident stance and an easy smile that seemed to light up the space around him. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and his blue eyes twinkled with a playful spark. "As Sophia, you look stunning," he said, his voice rich and smooth. "Have you always been this beautiful?" His eyes lingered on mine just a moment too long, sending a ripple of awareness through me. I laughed, feeling a flutter in my stomach. "You've grown up quite the charmer, Ethan. Do they teach that in college now?" He chuckled a low, pleasant sound. Maybe I picked it up along the way. "It's good to see you, Sophia." Rebecca beamed, clearly pleased with the reunion. "I'll leave you two to catch up," she said with a wink, and then she was off mingling with other guests. Left alone with Ethan, I felt the sudden inexplicable nervousness. But Ethan's easy demeanor quickly put me at ease. We started talking, our conversation flowing effortlessly. "I remember you being the serious kid," I teased. "Always with your nose in a book," he grinned. "Guilty as charged. My guess college changed me a bit. I learned there's more to life than books." We talked about his college experiences, his major in environmental science, and his plans for the future. His words were mature and impressed me. Yet his playful teasing and the way his eyes never left mine hinted at something deeper, more primal. "Tell me about you," he said, leaning in slightly. "How's life been treating you?" I found myself sharing more than I intended about my work in real estate, my daughters, and even the monotony that sometimes crept into my marriage. His attention was undivided and his interest was genuine. "You deserve more excitement in your life, Sophia," he said softly, his gaze intense. "You're too vibrant to be tied down by routine." His words sent a thrill through me. It had been long since anyone looked at me the way Ethan did, as if I were the only person in the room. As the night wore on, our conversations were more intimate, filled with playful teasing and subtle flirtation. "I bet you were the most popular guy at college," I said, sipping my wine. He shrugged modestly. "I had my moments, but I'm more interested in catching up with you right now." We laughed and shared stories, and I felt a growing connection that was both exhilarating and dangerous. The air between us was charged. Every touch, every look, a promise of something more. By the time the party wound down, I was both exhilarated and conflicted. Mark found me, and we said our goodbyes. As I turned to leave, Ethan caught my eye one last time. "See you around, Sophia," he said, his voice low and full of promise. "Good night, Ethan," I replied, my voice betraying the flutter in my chest. As we drove home, Mark chatted about the party, oblivious to the storm of emotions brewing inside me. I glanced out the window, my mind replaying every moment with Ethan. The spark between us was undeniable, and as much as I tried to push it aside, I knew it was only the beginning of something that could change everything. A few weeks later, I found myself at a trendy downtown coffee shop during a lunch break. The place was bustling with energy, baristas crafting intricate latte art, the hum of conversations blending with the clinking of cups. I had come here to escape the routine of my day to indulge in a moment of solitude before heading back to the office. As I stood at the counter, waiting for my order, I felt a presence behind me, a familiar warmth that sent a shiver down my spine. "Fancy seeing you here, Sophia," came Ethan's voice, smooth and captivating. His smile was the same, confident, charming, and utterly disarming. "Ethan, what a surprise," I replied, my voice striving for casualness while my heart pounded. "Join me." He nodded, and we found a quiet corner by the window. The sunlight filtered through, casting a golden hue over everything. We sat together, and our conversation flowed effortlessly, like at the party. There was an ease between us that felt both exhilarating and dangerous, a magnetic pull I couldn't ignore. "I didn't expect to see you here." "If fate has a funny way of working," Ethan said, his eyes locking onto mine, a playful glint in his gaze. "Maybe fate just knows what it's doing," I replied, a rush of excitement coursing through me. "What brings you downtown?" "Job hunting," he said, leaning back in his chair. "I've been applying to various firms. Before I take a break and grab some coffee." We discussed his job prospects and aspirations and shared more about our lives. He listened intently, his eyes never leaving mine, making me feel like I was the only person in the room. The outside world faded away, leaving just the two of us in our own bubble of connection. I've been thinking about our conversation at the party," Ethan said, his voice dropping slightly, becoming more intimate. "You mentioned wanting more excitement in your life." I felt a blush creeping up my neck. "Did I? Well, life can get a bit monotonous sometimes." He leaned in closer, his voice a whisper. "I think you deserve more than just a bit of excitement, Sophia. You deserve to feel alive." His words hung in the air, charged with a promise that sent a thrill through me. Something was intoxicating about how he looked at me, as if he could see right through to my deepest desires. "Tell me about your work," I said, trying to steer the conversation to safer grounds, yet feeling the undercurrent of tension between us. "I'm passionate about environmental science," he said, his face lighting up. "I want to make a difference. Leave a positive impact." We talked about his projects and dreams, and I found myself drawn to his enthusiasm and zest for life. It was refreshing and invigorating. I shared more about my own career, the highs and lows of real estate, and the satisfaction of closing a deal. "You're really something, Sophia," he said, his gaze intense. "You have this incredible energy. It's magnetic." I laughed softly, feeling a mixture of flattery and apprehension. "You're quite the charmer, Ethan." He reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine, sending a jolt of electricity through me. "I mean it. You're captivating." We sat there, the world outside continuing on its bustling pace, while we were caught in a moment that felt suspended in time. The connection between us was undeniable, and as much as I tried to ignore it, I knew it was only growing stronger. As we finished our coffee, I realized with a pain of reluctance that I needed to get back to work. I should go. "Duty calls," I said, standing up. Ethan stood as well, his eyes never leaving mine. "It was great seeing you, Sophia. Let's not make this the last time." I nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. "I like that." We parted ways, but as I walked back to my office, my mind was a whirl of thoughts and emotions. The thrill of our encounter, the danger of what it could mean, and the undeniable pull that kept drawing me back to Ethan. The unplanned meeting had awakened something in me, something I couldn't ignore. After several more coincidental meetings at coffee shops, bookstores, and even a couple of work-related events, the undeniable chemistry between Ethan and me had become a constant undercurrent in my daily life. Every encounter left me more drawn to him, and every parting was filled with a silent promise of more to come. It was after one such encounter, during which the tension between us had been almost unbearable, that Ethan invited me to his apartment one evening to discuss a potential job opportunity for him. I stood outside his building, my heart racing, the city lights casting a shimmering glow on the streets. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the tumult of emotions inside me. When he opened the door, his smile was warm and welcoming, yet his eyes held that familiar spark of something more. "Come in, Sophia," he said, stepping aside to let me pass. His apartment was tastefully decorated, a blend of modern and cozy, with soft lighting that created an intimate atmosphere. We sat on his couch, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. He handed me a glass of wine, and as we clinked glasses, our fingers brushed, sending a jolt of electricity through me. "So tell me about this job opportunity," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, though the proximity and setting made it difficult to focus. Ethan leaned back, a relaxed, almost predatory look on his face. "While I've been thinking about breaking into the renewable energy sector, there are a few companies I've been eyeing, and I wanted your advice on how to approach them." His voice was low and inviting, and as he talked, I found myself less focused on his words and more on the way his lips moved, the curve of his jaw, and the intensity in his eyes. "You know, I admire your determination, Sophia," he said, his tongue dropping, becoming more intimate. "You're so driven, so passionate about what you do. It's inspiring." I looked into his eyes, feeling the magnetic pull between us growing stronger. The rational part of my brain was screaming at me to leave, to break this dangerous spell. But my body had other ideas. "Ethan, this is wrong," I whispered, my voice barely audible. Before I could finish, he leaned in, his lips capturing mine, and a kiss that sent shivers down my spine. His touch was gentle at first, testing, but as I responded, the kiss deepened, becoming more urgent, more demanding. His hand slid around my waist, pulling me closer, and I felt myself melting into him, every ounce of resistance evaporating. We embraced the intensity of our connection, overwhelming any sense of reason. The world outside ceased to exist as we lost ourselves in the moment, our bodies communicating in a language older than words. His touch was everywhere, lighting fires under my skin, his breath hot against my neck, his hands exploring with a mixture of reverence and hunger. The guilt came later, mingling with the memory of his touch, the taste of his kiss. As we lay there, the city lights casting a warm glow around us, reality began to seep back in, bringing a wave of conflicting emotions. I pulled away slightly, looking into his eyes, trying to make sense of what had just happened. This can't happen again," I said, my voice shaky, but even as I said the words, I wasn't sure I believed them. Ethan's gaze was steady, his expression a mixture of satisfaction and something deeper, something that mirrored my own confusion. "I know," he said softly, "but can we really ignore what we feel?" I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that the line had been crossed and there was no going back. As I gathered my things and prepared to leave, he walked me to the door, his hand lingering on mine just a moment longer than necessary. "Good night, Sophia," he said, his voice filled with unspoken promises. "Good night, Ethan," I replied, my heart heavy with the weight of what we'd done. Our affair transformed into a series of secret meetings, each one more daring than the last. The thrill of our connection grew with every stolen moment, every secret rendezvous. The more we risked, the more intoxicating it became. We met in my office after hours, the building eerily quiet as the city's lights flickered outside. The normally sterile environment of my workplace became a backdrop for our passionate exchanges, our whisper conversations, and the intense, furtive glances that left me breathless. One evening, as the last of my colleagues trickled out and the office emptied, Ethan slipped into the back entrance. I locked the door behind him, my heart racing with anticipation. We sat close in the dim light of my office, the cityscape glowing through the windows. "Doesn't this thrill you, Sophia? The risk, the secrecy?" Ethan asked, his voice a hushed murmur as he brushed a strand of hair from my face. "It terrifies me," I admitted, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it, "but I can't seem to stay away." He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear. "Neither can I." We embraced, the intensity of our connection overwhelming any sense of reason. The fear of being discovered, the thrill of our secrecy, only heightened the passion we shared. Every touch, every kiss, was charged with a forbidden energy that left me craving more. Our secret meetings continued in secluded parks, where we walked hand in hand under the cover of night, hidden from the world. The rustling leaves and the distant sounds of the city provided a cloak of anonymity that allowed us to be ourselves, free from society's prying eyes. We found solace in each other's company, our conversations flowing effortlessly as we explored the depths of our attraction. One evening, as we sat on a park bench, the moonlight casting a soft glow around us, Ethan turned to me, his eyes intense. "I feel more alive with you than I ever have before," he said. I looked at him, my heart aching with longing and fear. "Ethan, what we're doing, it's so dangerous." We took my hand in his grip firm yet gentle. "It's dangerous because it's real, Sophia, because it matters." We shared a slow and deliberate kiss, savoring the moment despite the ever-present risk of discovery. The world around us faded away, leaving just the two of us lost in our forbidden embrace. We even met in his car, parked in shadowy corners of the city. The close confines of the vehicle only intensified the electricity between us. One night, we parked in a deserted alley, the streetlights casting long shadows that danced across the windshield. Ethan reached over, his fingers brushing my cheek. "Are you sure you want to keep doing this?" he asked, his voice a mix of concern and desire. I leaned into his touch, my resolve crumbling. "Yes," I whispered. "I need this." We kissed the windows fogging up as our passion consumed us. The danger of being caught only fueled our desire, making every touch and moment feel even more exhilarating. The exhilaration of our secret and the constant danger of being discovered only intensified our connection. We were playing a dangerous game, but the thrill was impossible to resist. Each encounter left me both exhilarated and terrified, torn between the life I knew and the intoxicating pull of the unknown. As the weeks went by, the boundaries between right and wrong blurred, leaving me adrift in a sea of conflicting emotions. The thrill of our affair was addictive, each secret meeting a potent mix of passion and peril. I knew we were treading on thin ice, but I couldn't bring myself to stop. Our affair had become a delicate balancing act, a tightrope walk between the familiar comfort of my life with Mark and the exhilarating, dangerous allure of my connection with Ethan. A few evenings later, Rebecca's house was once again abuzz with laughter and music, the familiar sounds of another lively gathering filling the air. I arrived with Mark, our hands entwined, but my mind was elsewhere, preoccupied with thoughts of Ethan. The previous weeks had been a whirlwind of secret meetings and stolen moments, and the tension between us was almost unbearable as we entered Rebecca's home. The evening wore on, and despite my best efforts to keep my distance, my eyes were drawn to Ethan across the room. He was charming, engaging in easy conversations, but every so often, his gaze would find mine, and the world around us seemed to fade away. The tension between us was palpable, an electric current that neither could ignore. We exchanged brief, knowing glances, each more intense than the last. As the night deepened, the weight of our secret began to press down on me, a mix of excitement and dread coiling in my stomach. Late in the evening, as the party began to wind down, Ethan found me standing alone on the patio. The cold night air provided a brief respite from the crowded, overheated rooms inside. He approached quietly, his presence sending the shiver down my spine. "One last time, Sophia, for old time's sake," he whispered, his voice a mix of desire and urgency. I looked into his eyes, my resolve crumbling. The rational part of me screamed to walk away, to end this dangerous game before it was too late, but the pull between us was too strong, the thrill too intoxicating. "We shouldn't, but I can't resist you," I replied, my voice barely more than a whisper. He took my hand, leading me to a secluded corner of the garden, hidden from view by the tall hedges and blooming flowers. The moonlight cast a soft glow over us as we stood close, the world outside disappearing. Our moment of passion was intense and almost reckless, fueled by the weeks of pent-up desire and the ever-present risk of being caught. We kissed, our touches urgent and desperate, as if trying to make up for all the time we couldn't be together. The thrill of our secret made everything more vivid, more alive. Just as we were catching our breath, still lost in the moment, we heard footsteps approaching. Rebecca's voice calling out sent a jolt of fear through me, my heart pounding in my chest. "Sophia, are you out here?" She called, her tone light and unsuspecting. We quickly composed ourselves, straightening our clothes and trying to look casual. I stepped out from behind the hedge, forcing a smile as Rebecca came into view. "Here you are. I've been looking for you," she said, her smile warm and genuine. "Are you enjoying the party?" "Yes, just needed a bit of fresh air," I replied, my voice surprisingly steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. Eakin appeared a moment later, his demeanor calm and collected. "Mum, there you are. I was just about to head back in. Sophia and I were just catching up." Rebecca beamed at us, completely unaware of the storm raging beneath the surface. "I'm glad you two were getting along so well. Come on, let's join the others." As we rejoined the party, my mind was racing. The close call forced me to confront the reality of our actions. The thrill of our affair had turned into a dangerous game, and I knew it was only a matter of time before everything unraveled. The excitement that had once been so alluring was now overshadowed by the looming threat of discovery. Throughout the rest of the evening, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. Every glance, every whisper seemed to carry the weight of our secret. The tension between Ethan and me had reached a breaking point, and I knew we couldn't continue like this. The drive home with Mark was a blur. He chatted about the party, oblivious to the turmoil inside me. As we pulled into our driveway, I realized I had a choice to make. The thrill of our affair had given me a glimpse of something more, but it came at a cost I wasn't sure I was willing to pay. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I knew I had to find a way to end it. The risk was too significant and the stakes were too high. The connection between Ethan and me was undeniable, but the reality of our situation was inescapable. The dangerous game we had been playing could only lead to heart-breathing and disaster. So I knew I had to end it. See you again very soon. Thank you for following me and watching our stories. Don't forget to activate the bell.